Welcome Gopa and welcome everyone who's watching this. We have just received news that Sujata Suripalli has joined a dharna instead of joining us, and that is totally understandable about Sujata because she's attending to 100 different things at the same time. There is a dharna happening in the city today on agriculture, so she's probably there. Um, we have Gopa and Sujata, both of whom with whom we have been having conversations about the whole problem of access that has emerged in the last um 8 months as part of the educational problem. Gopa, you may have watched the previous session on teaching and caring.
Yeah.
But basically, the issue that we have been trying to think through is the issue of what happens when your regular classroom completely collapses. You're not with the students anymore in the classroom face to face. You don't meet them in your real physical office space, and they are spread out all over the place. You're working from home. And what does this teach us? What does this reveal at this point of time in terms of the challenges of caring for your students and caring for yourself? Does this actually reveal some fundamental fault lines in our educational system, particularly at a higher education level? Today, the session that we want to think through is partly the question of access, but the question of access obviously translates into all of the other issues that we talked about yesterday. For the viewers, hopefully Sujata Surepalli will join us in about 20 minutes. But right now we have Professor Gopa Samanta, who teaches in the geography department in Bardhaman University. And Sujata Surepalli teaches in the Shatavahana University in Karimnagar. And for those of you who are familiar with the geography of universities, you will realize that both of these universities are outside of large metropolises. The student pool that comes to these universities comes from backgrounds in small towns in agriculture with um, lots of disadvantages of various kinds, but also in some sense of fire in their belly because they do want to learn. They have lived experience that they want to connect to and translate into theory and concepts and so on. So that being the case, what are the kinds of challenges that we are facing as teachers? How do we deal with them? And that's the plan for this session. So Gopa, if you can take about 10 minutes to lay out what you believe is the experience of the last 8 months to be revealing about the lack of access, then we can take it from there.
Okay, thank you, Anand. Thank you very much for bringing me here. Yeah, the challenges we are facing, those are really something which I would like to share in 10 minutes time. And I will be speaking from, as already Anand has mentioned, that I'm speaking from my own experience of being a teacher for quite a long time, located in a university of a small town with a very huge rural catchment area. And I can say that almost 30% of our students come from the families who never came to higher educational institutions like universities. So for us, the case might be a little different from the universities of which are located in big cities, but I think there are some commonalities as well. So something was happening, which I was also realizing, which Amita has clearly spelled out yesterday's in the yesterday's panel, that there was a continuous push for the towards the teachers for more production performance of papers and publications, etc. Which I was feeling that it is also distracting teachers too much towards publication than giving a full time for teaching. So that is one part of it. But another important issue was that we have students from different backgrounds, and most of them are probably from peripheral locations. But we have certain kind of system, at least when we bring in 70 students in a class and day-to-day interaction we have in the class. It's not, we were not only concerned about finishing our syllabus, so I still believe that the knowledge which we produce inside a class, it's not a one-way communication like what I know as a teacher. I have read so many books and so many papers, but I think every conversation we used to start with the experience from the field, from the students. I will be giving one example. Like I used to teach, still I teach social inequalities, spatial inequality, social, economic, etc. So in a class, the class was like that. I would start with, okay, you tell me what is your everyday, what you can recollect from your memory that you felt that some kind of inequality you are facing. And Anant, there were so many issues which probably were never written in the books, so they have first kinds of this. There are layers, like, we usually in a book we try to put it in that way. Okay, we have this kind of caste inequality, gender inequality, etc., etc. But they will come up with certain kind of things from their experience, which usually used to have a, like, it's like they were opening our eyes that we never thought about it. So I'm just
Mm.
going to share something like, we were aware from this, the idea when we were having this conversation, that the nice panel theme you have kept it, that Viva in the field. So it's a story which I would like to share with other people, actually the audience. So it was our practical exam, and we were thinking how to take it. So university decided, okay, we cannot bring them to the laboratory or somewhere, so maybe we can have a Viva on that, and then we can mark them accordingly. It was a dissertation paper. It was a master's
Mm.
dissertation. So we were having actually this Viva. And when we were taking the Viva, we were telling the students that you make your video on so that we can see you. And I was seeing one of my student was under an umbrella, and I was asking, why are you under an umbrella? And he was telling me, madam, we don't have the access to a stronger internet in the village, so whenever I attended the class, I came to the field outside a playground, or in the field, in the agricultural field. So literally he was attending that exam from the field. So I would start from that conversation. Usually we think, whenever we talk about this digital divide these days, we are talking a lot about the access and affordability issue, which is true, which is maybe 80% of the case. I'm not denying the fact, but we have to remember, even if our students are capable of having a mobile phone and subscribing a good internet provider like Airtel or whatever it is, they don't get enough stronger internet so that they can access the class. Sometimes when we actually in the class, in the online class, we see often somebody is leaving and then somebody is joining. That means they cannot attend even a 1 hour class uninterruptedly. So the spatial inequality, as a geographer, that fascinates me, that there are a lot of spatial inequality. And if we think that only the urban students who are located in an urban area are being covered by a good internet facility, they can cater to our classes, and we are leaving out some of the students, and many of them. And in fact, what happens if, for example, we have a meeting, I skip the class during the daytime. If I ask them, okay, can I take my class at 5 p.m.? No, madam. After evening, in the afternoon, it slows down, so we cannot attend the class. So a lot of other issues are there. These are also very, very important part of it. We are talking about digital India these days, but actually, if we consider the spatiality of it, spatial inequality, and even if we think about that, okay, then why not government invest a lot of money into having a good internet service provider, and put money into Reliance so that Jio can have a good, better network. But then the question of affordable, then the threshold demand would come if we think about a corporatization of the services. So my idea is, definitely we must have, if this is going to be part of education system even in the future, then we must invest, the government must invest a lot of money into the BSNL, because that is the biggest network we have in rural India. So that can at least ensure that even people are having they can afford to buy a SIM card, buy a mobile phone. Mobile phone, probably we can fix it. Maybe, for example, if 4 students are not having mobile phone, probably we teachers can buy their mobile phone, but we cannot give them this service. So that's very important. And what I feel as a teacher for the class, these online classes are really, I'm so upset with this class. And whenever I think about it, I feel like a ghost class, The internet, the whole internet, we use Google Meet. That has also a capacity. We have to ask everybody to keep their video off and to keep their audio off. Then I'm speaking to like some ghosts. I don't see the faces of my students. And the face is a big indicator at that how, when we think about, we are in, I always prefer a discussion mode in a class. And we start with the opinion of on certain topic, whatever they have from their past knowledge on anything. And then we can have a very interactive session, which is also a learning process for us, the teachers, because many things probably we have never read somewhere, that, and those are certain things which we can reflect on and we can build upon. So these things are very important. And also another important thing is when I see their face, that facial expression is a very important input for a teacher, that whether I can reach the students or we cannot reach the students, they can understand what I'm trying to make them understand or not. And without seeing that face, we cannot reach out. And another thing is, it is, as a teacher, we not only take care of their syllabus, we have some other roles to perform. We have to think about that who is having what kind of problem they are facing in their household, and it's a really serious crisis time they're passing through. Some of those students are coming from a family who have no income at this moment or something like that even. But when it was a physical class, we had some other kind of modalities. They also had at some point of time, they had certain kinds of problem which we could reach out, when we are together in a same building and we talk to each other, probably some student would come up, okay, and used to say, okay, his father is ill and he has no money to go to the hospital. You get those informations, that informal channels, we are with them all the time. And if we see that one person is not attending a class for 5 days, I definitely would ask why he or she is not attending the class. Then you could know about his or her actual situation in her family. So it was kind of a benefit. I would say that facilitating environment for us, if we would like to reach out our students in a better manner, we could. But at this moment, we have no other options. We are just finishing the syllabus. Somehow we think, okay, students are listening, okay, whatever, and then we are okay. We have to finish our exam, and again we are in a state university, and there was a lot of issues between the state government and the UGC. Initially, we decided that we won't go for an exam. We will take last 3 semesters average marking, and on that basis we will mark them for 80%, and 20% we will do from Viva. Then UGC notification came that no, okay, you have to take the exam by whatever means. So it's a lot of complicacy when we always try to see teaching as a mechanical technological system. I think that teaching is more than that, and knowledge is not being produced inside the class from the teacher only. There is the classroom, physical classroom is really some place. And also another point I would like to share with you, that in that physical class, I feel that class itself was a place for equity, equal access. We never ask students where from they're coming, what their parents do, something like that. So they feel very comfortable when they sit in a class, and they also, we treat them equally. But now everything is exposed. So who can join, who has phone, and we are always going on that line. So I don't think that it is also creating a lot of other kinds of inequalities besides just that access to digital device and having access to the internet. So I think I have 10 minutes already. I stop here and
So,
then
yeah. No, so I just want to actually follow this up with a question. Um, from what I'm hearing, there are basically three sets of issues which are coming up, right? One is um, the physical classroom being both a more equal space, a space that in some odd way actually allowed people to not reveal too much about themselves, and they could control what they could reveal about
yeah,
themselves. At the same time, also be
yeah.
confident that they can reach out to people if they needed to, and that physical
Mhm.
co-presence in time and in one place was very, very important, a very important resource in teaching itself. Now, to what extent do you think has this even become an issue for institutional processes? Are universities aware of this? Are universities thinking about this? Or is this being left to teachers to deal with as individuals? How is this even being dealt with? So, this does seem like a fundamental challenge to the way in which we teach.
Yeah. Thank you, Anand, for raising this issue. I don't see much intervention from the university side. Initially, when COVID started, then we think that the university decided probably we can give some cheaper tablet to some needy students. Then they asked us to, okay, you can have a meeting for the students and give us a list, but nothing was taken care of. University just saying that you have to reach out and you have to take care of the students, but what ways? There actually there is nothing. Caring is absolutely missing in the university domain, because it was always. And then when we think about that, even the physical class, we can reach out students by different means and different modalities. That is also depending on the individual teacher. There is no formal system, no. That what I was thinking, just a stray idea, it might not be a really good proposition, but I was thinking that I will be talking with my HOD on this when the physical classes start. That we have, remedial classes.
Hmm.
Remedial class is meant for that the people who could not, actually could not follow the classes. Then we give an extra effort.
You need to
So
make
I
up for
was
that.
thinking
Hmm.
that, yeah, make up for that. But I was thinking that why this remedial class we take in a different shape, that can be an open forum where we can discuss about our own problems, our teachers students problems. They are encountering a multiple problems from different side. It's not about that only they have the degree. They might have different.
Hmm.
For example, I can share that one student was a girl student, and her parents were forcing her to get married at that age, and she was not ready for that. So that is also a big challenge in person's students life. So somehow we cannot communicate with the parents and we cannot convince them, but in fact we were trying our best, me and my another female colleague. So we were trying to motivate her how to fight with their parents. These are also very important part of the lives of the students. It's not about only the finishing syllabus and exam and the marks. I think the more we are pushing the education system towards the performance, like scoring and etc., and we are living out. So if that is going to be the model, like corporatized education system, we already have the corporatized pressure on the teachers. You see, Anant, what I feel, that why this
Hmm.
where from this publication pressure is coming on the teachers. It's also,
Hmm.
I think, neoliberal corporate publishing culture. you know so you
Hmm.
publish, and somebody big corporate houses, you must have a very good publication from a very good journal. What we are going to get out of it? We are peer reviewing so many journals these days. I am following one simple logic, Anand. If I'm getting an invitation for peer review, I just go to my university, I use my university link, and I see if I can access that journal. If I don't access, I deny. No, I don't access from my university your journal, so I don't want to review it. So these,
Right.
you think, and another thing, what we are going to get out of it, because of this peer pressure that we have to be, we have to give a huge performance on research, which is not going to benefit our students directly. You know, how many people are reading our stuff, what we are producing for high quality peer review journal. These are not going to facilitate our students. Rather, we can use that students for mentoring them, for reaching out them, for making them independent researcher. We can afford that time rather than publishing. So already we have a corporatized publishing culture where we are pushing teachers to give more performance than teaching. And also in the whole system, when there is a performance on the basis of which we are given our promotion, it's absolutely, this is very categorically fixed how to assess the publication. But in India, in university system, this teaching performance is absolutely ignored. The HOD just write a letter that okay, she or he has taken the classes and followed routines, etc., etc. So if we go for that performance category and we push only for publication, we are prioritize publication, we do not prioritize teaching itself, then we are already in a dismal situation in the teaching system. And caring is absolutely, there is no provision of care in the university system. And COVID has shown us we have to be careful. If we really think about an inclusive educational process, but everywhere probably we are thinking how we can exclude people from things. It's formal channel, yeah. So I think there is a complete reforms in the system as well, because at an individual level, if you leave that okay to the morality of or ethics of a teacher to be careful about student, then it is not going to help in a big way. So I think that's also a very important issue we need to deal with.
I think Sujata is trying to get online. Let me try
Oh,
and see
good,
if I
good.
can get her on board.
Yeah, very good, very good, very good.
So just to continue with that thought, I think Sujata is trying to get in. We'll know in a little bit. Gopa, one of the things that came out of yesterday's conversations about caring and teaching was that maybe this is a moment for trying to think about what kinds of networks of solidarity can be created at, beyond the university itself. And the reason why I'm thinking about that as a very critical issue is that if I understand you correctly, one of the things you're saying is that the pressures that you are that we are all subjected to, they affect both students and teachers.
Yeah.
It is just that teachers do have structurally a certain kind of power, or they are able to leverage some kind of power within the system to democratize things a little better than the students.
Mm-hmm.
But at some raw personal level, everybody is affected very deeply by what is happening, right? So there are tremendous amounts of pressures on you as a teacher to publish, to review, and so on and so forth, and contribute knowledge to structures and systems that actually do not yield anything for people who are at a disadvantage, right? If that is the broad state of affairs, and we do want to try and build networks of solidarity across these institutions, what kind of possibilities do you see? One of the challenges that I can think of is that um, precisely because of our location in the global south, because we are located at the periphery, it is not easy for us to speak with each other and build alternative networks without going through some kind of a central power node, right?
Yeah.
It's like Bangladesh cannot speak to India without going through London, right? And I think that in many ways, for a lot of our smaller universities, unless you have some metropolitan center which convenes all of us, we can't talk to each other,
No.
right?
Yeah.
But maybe in some ways, the new technology, new contexts are actually creating some possibilities for us, right? I'm just opening this up as a possibility for us to reflect a little bit on. Do you
Yeah.
see that there are new avenues for building solidarities, or
I just don't hear you. Is that
Yeah, my signal got dropped for a moment. But I'm here.
okay.
Yeah. So that was my basic question for you. Is there a way in which we can begin to imagine new possibilities of building solidarities even across sites within the periphery?
Anand, it's really a very critical question for me, and I really don't have a ready answer. But I think we need, as you said, that we need a center somewhere to link the periphery even. Yeah, we need a center to link the periphery even. I cannot make a conversation with a North Bengal University as an individual teacher. So even the university system as such, again, within the university system, we have central government universities, state government universities under different control, and they are always in fight, center versus state. So even center is deciding something for linking all kinds of, or deciding for all the state universities, then UGC is trying to control them. So exactly what kind of modalities can occur? What I feel that we need something, we need to develop certain kind of avenues so that we can develop some kind of mechanism, at least formal university system itself. And building network, yes, it is possible, but exactly I never thought of it, that how we can build a network. Is that individual capacity, or the university will be part of it? And even university is having a very bureaucratic system. Probably we had the conversation in even urban studies network, that if I don't take a proper permission for being part of it, some of the universities, state universities even are there is a modalities that even teachers are speaking to the media. There are a lot of pressure on them. So how an individual, being a part of institution, how can an individual, even if I would like to be part of a bigger network outside my university, I need a permission from a university. So
Right.
Such a bureaucratic system,
So
that's
in some
why I
sense,
think.
Gopa, what you're saying is that we do need some kind of a convening center that is in itself fundamentally somehow aware of the way in which it can reproduce power. Right. This is the big challenge, right? For convening centers can actually appropriate a lot of power and become blocks for democratization further. And that is the big thing that we really need to figure out, how to make that kind of build that kind of a self-reflectivity into the institution that convenes. But we do need to build those intermediate level small institutional frameworks that are going to connect all of us.
Yeah,
So great. Thank you very much. That was really, really very helpful. I can see that Venugopal is actually here from Ambedkar University, who's another great person to have in this conversation. Mukta is
Okay,
here,
good, good.
and I just noticed that Sujata is here. She's here under the name Desi Disha. Sujata, can you hear me? Can you please confirm that you can hear me? You'll have to you'll have to unmute yourself. Sujata, Sujata, can you unmute yourself? She's probably trying to get connected from somewhere else. But hi Venu.
Hi Anand. Hi Anand.
Hi, hi, hi. So Venu, we were just talking about the challenges. Sujata is there.
Yeah.
Sujata, can you hear us?
Yes.
Perfect. So
Dharna
you're
Chowk
in
lo
the
na.
Dharna site.
Yes.
Okay. So glad, I'm really glad that you could join us. Gopa Samanta from Bardhaman University is here. Venugopal
Hello.
from Ambedkar University in Delhi is here. And we were just talking until now about how the new university economy, right, the neoliberal corporate economy of the university has begun to very gradually undermine teaching function itself and force us to become teachers that actually publish a lot, performance in a particular way, performance and perform in the market, and that in itself has become a force that has begun to undermine our teaching function. And Sujata, if you recall, this was the conversation we were having 3 years ago in the same in context when we were talking about what happens to small state level universities in the provinces, right? And we now actually have precisely that conversation happening. What is happening with the students in our universities? Now, what Gopa was saying, and I'm just giving you the quick context for you to respond to, is that one of the fundamental challenges is that even if people have devices, mobile phones, and so on, they don't have signal. So many of her students, as she was describing, actually have to walk several miles away from their homes to be able to access the lessons, to be able to listen to what the teachers are saying. But the other big challenge that Gopa was talking about is that in the physical classroom, you get to see students in in the room physically, and therefore you are able to ask them questions. Therefore, you are able to judge what is happening to them in a way that you can't do on the phone, right? Classroom, outside the classroom, in the corridor, you can sense that a girl is under pressure from her parents to get married, and you need to try and figure out how to deal with that. You can't do that on the phone, right? So when you are in the classroom, you have the opportunity to ask them to reflect on some specific experience or force them to talk, and
Yes.
starting from that, you can begin to build up concepts, which you can't do in an online Zoom class where most students have to turn off their cameras, turn off their audio to be able to receive anything from you. The third thing is that the students have actually been exposed in ways that they wouldn't actually be exposed in the past. That is, in the classroom, you don't have to tell people who your parents are and what kind of house you live in. But in the Zoom class, everybody can see where you are, what you're doing, and that can itself be a very inhibiting factor. So, at one level, we have the problem of access being of classroom teaching not happening in the classroom by itself a very deeply undemocratic process. Two, services signals not being available in an easy accessible manner for everyone. That is the second big challenge. And the third thing is that None of these questions are being talked about at an institutional level. It is all being pushed onto individuals, and the individuals have no way of speaking across different universities. So one university in South Bengal cannot speak to people or faculty members in North Bengal because the institutions are very different, and we don't know how to build networks and connections across these institutions. We need very fundamentally the need for setting up convening institutions or centers that can make conversations happen, right? So take very simply, this conversation between you and Gopa Samanta wouldn't happen in any normal conference convention style context, right? We need all these new ways of making it happen, and how do we make that happen? That's the broad context. So now please come in and tell us what you're thinking.
See, the whole education system itself is based on inequality. The system itself is not equal, right? It is between, because for the last so many, more than a decade, we are saying that equal education and equal opportunities to all. Now, one way you have very elite institutions only talk about technology, online teaching, and with lot of gadgets and projects, which will not be possible without any equipment. Without it's not just a classroom. So now I was in 2017. I was into university administration. In Nebraska University, US, from India, for 1 month, whole month of looking into the processes. I was just wondering that where are we? Especially, I come from a state university, very rural university, and my colleagues are vice chancellors from other universities, Delhi, Kasturba, and very high-fi universities are like, I myself are feeling very low, because the language which they are speaking itself is not I'm not able to relate to them. So the first point itself is that we don't have common education system in India, number one. Number two, so, the US universities or Chinese universities, the professors are happy to take online classes with Geetam universities and other Delhi university students. That means with the technology, some haves or some elite people or privileged sections are accessing the worldwide education and worldwide technology and knowledge. That is one part. Now majority students from where I come from, where we talk about first generation students who enter into the university system, for them higher education is becoming very nightmare now. Especially after the post lockdown, they just announced there is one more thing to it. Being an activist on this education sector, um, marginalized students come for universities, not just to access the education, but also the shelter and the other library access, and they need some accommodation also. So now that whole thing is gone into in the lockdown system, because now students are asking, we don't have a library, we don't have a laptop, we don't have a computer, and we don't have a book, and how are we going to, and any access to the online classes. Now online classes is one level, we talk about the laptops and the systems, but what about the study material as well? So now today I have a request from the dental medical student that uh, very expensive books are on the PDF format, or they can't buy, and they have to access through the internet, and that is only she can go through her education only with a laptop. That is the situation what we have in. So classroom teaching and interaction is definitely cannot match with any other form of online education system. But let us not forget that the world is running around the technology, and moving very fast, and the pace is high. I understand that many areas we don't have internet and geo or whatever connections, but I'm the other side of what is that we have connections and reachability, but don't have any equipment or any gadget or anything which can connect. So these are the two parts we have to think, that education is not that the teacher and the student, but definitely in a higher education it is all other things really matters. So when all other things are closed down now, so just having online classes, it makes no sense for a marginalized student, because I already showed you several requests that we are not able to stay in the villages because we are becoming burden to our parents, that our hostels are closed, and because with the pretext of education or to prepare other kind of competitive exams or whatever, we at least be away from the home for a few days or a few years. From there they may, most of the Usmania University students, they go for a catering evening because of functions and all. Majority of students earn 200, 300 for their livelihood. So the multi-purpose support systems in a university or in a residential accommodation, which is really missing, and that is one thing to worry. Second, technology is now today part of the education system that we cannot avoid, because I may teach in a half an hour whatever knowledge I have, but a bright student who has something, an opportunity of computer and a laptop, perhaps he will get more. If I give him 20% knowledge, he may get 10, 70, 80% knowledge with his own searching or his own learning as well. Because you know that the sociology books which I come from, printed 50 years back, 20 years back, and we are still teaching the same thing, which many reforms took place and new things are coming, but the new latest researches and latest books and publications have not taken place in the, and they didn't come to us, and those are in American universities or somewhere in the UK, US. And I always wish when I went abroad and they have accessibility, one some small code, they can access any library anywhere, any book with that code. So I always used to think, anyway Indian universities are not getting that new stuff to the students, we should have a same kind of accessibility to see what is the latest publication in the sociology, in the field of market or economy or whatever. So what I'm saying, Anant, is let us not say that they don't have an internet connection and they have to go miles and miles. I probably say that that is one part, but I would say that those who have everything and do not have the accessibility because you are seeing that how range of people and asking for mobiles, printers,
Yeah.
tablets, laptops. So
So Sujata, let me just clarify here. I think one of the reasons why this conversation is actually very, very important is that from the experience of Bardhaman and from the experience of Karimnagar, I think there are some things which are very clearly the same and some things which are very different, right? What is different is that in the case of Bardhaman, even if you give them laptops and phones, they still cannot access anything, right? Because there is no signal at all. So that means that possible will have to be sensitive to the fact that they still have to go several kilometers away from home to be able to access things, and that means that girls are still going to have a huge problem because they just don't have access to the signal. Whereas in the case of Karimnagar, there are a number of students who have signals, but if they don't have the instruments, they just to get instruments. So there's no question about comparing them at that level and coming up with a common answer. But I do think that what is common between the two is that there is very clearly the sense that the physical classroom, the physical library, the physical possibility of being away from home, physical possibility of meeting other people, being in a learning context is very important for a lot of
very important.
students.
Very
It's
important.
important for students simply because that gives not just education, but it gives an entire life.
Yes, yes,
Right. So, for
exactly.
example, I was just talking to somebody who runs an hotelier and catering business here, and he was telling me that one of the things that he has been feeling terrible about is that every time you have 2,000 people being invited to a feast, you have 200 jobs for that day.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Those jobs have to do with valet drivers, they have to do with stewards, and about half of them are girls, half of them are boys. And all of them, he said, are students who come from rural areas to study in the
Exactly.
city. They need that extra income to be able to
Right.
buy books, to be able to, get by in life. And if people are not getting married and spending money on getting married, this income is gone for the students, right? And if they're staying at home in the villages, even this possibility, out of 200, maybe 100 are getting those jobs now. Even that is not possible.
Not possible.
So the real important thing then for us to recognize is that education is not is not a unidimensional thing. It is not the
Not just a
classroom.
classroom. Yes.
It's not just the classroom. It is not just the instrument, not just the device. It is about actually an entire life world. And that life world has been collapsed and compressed. And we are trying to figure out what to do about it. Right? And I think that in that context, the thing that we really need to think about is, given that both students and teachers are badly affected by, Gopa, one of the things that Sujata was telling me the other day was about how school teachers are being asked to go to
Door
the
to door.
houses of each of the students to
Mhm.
take attendance, to check whether the students are accessing lessons online or not, and then take attendance. Now, that basically means that this teacher's job has been reduced to that of a policeman or a surveyor who has to go to each student's house,
Okay.
right? Now, in a situation like that, what kinds of networks of solidarity do we create? Because precisely from these teachers that the request for devices came.
Yes,
Because
yes,
they're
yes.
saying that, look, if the student doesn't even have a device at home, I'll have to mark the student as absent in the
Absent.
class. Absent not because the student is not physically there, but because it doesn't have a phone,
Or he has
right?
to pass them, just like that.
Or he just has to let them pass through without actually studying anything at all, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
kinds of
Yeah.
new challenges are being thrown at us by this pandemic, and what it has done very clearly, as we are realizing in each of these contexts, is that it is actually accentuating problems that have already been there, that have
Yeah.
always been there. These are not new inequalities, these are old inequalities playing out completely newly in this present context.
Actually, UGC guidelines, the latest after the fifth stage of lockdown or whatever, it says any university can open if they have a facility for a quarantine, or they can maintain a physical distance, or all the facilities that you can provide. You can open a university, but none of them are ready to, because most of the government universities are spacious enough actually. They can still go like that, but it is a single decisions without consultation, decision without thinking about the majority of the students who come from the marginalized communities and poor background or signalless places. It just online is a online, that's all. So they don't have any, and that itself shows that they are going to cater one group of people or one section of people, leaving all others. We have already reported 3 suicides, not having the gadgets, because uh, what is the rural situation, Anand? Because I am now going to almost have covered half of the Telangana with this distribution and research or studies, that after the collapsing of the caste-based occupations and agriculture is down and there are no private jobs available, most of the first generation students are only depending on the studies, education. So I will come out with some job and I'll support my family, especially girls. Why suicides among girls is more, 3 suicides here now in Telangana, because they are very confident that they will crack anything. And the recent request I sent you, that one Dalit girl who got admission into the some Punjab university, her first sentence, it is there in the group, you please go through. I have cracked all the entrances examinations, but I don't have any support systems for a pay the fee or to have a laptop or what. So they are very confident, and when that very confidence is, is under the question or not able to access, and they are going to depression, and it's leading to the suicide, like same as the Rohit Vemula case.
Right.
What is there left? Parents are not able to feed them, and they don't have a work. And as you always say, that we don't have a concept of any kind of a vocational training where they get trained and go and work outside, like abroad. So this is a very serious concern now in the rural areas about that.
Gopa, do you want to make one quick last statement before we
Yeah,
close?
I was just thinking that these students, yes, it's more or less similar here as well, because students are coming, but
One
Bardhaman being
second, Gopa. Sujata, can you turn off your mic because the background noise is very high?
okay. So I was just thinking that cases are similar. It's not catering in a small town. What they do, they try to find out some kind of private tuition, giving tuitions to some students, something like that. They do even to earn certain things. And I was thinking that, there could be a possibility in between completely stopping everything, classes and etc. And there could be, if we think like, that we can also, the university can think that how many students are really located in a very rural locations where they have no access or something. So even rather than keeping all the hostels vacant, they could provide at least a few limited percentage student, 10% students they could bring into the hostel even, so that if they are staying in the hostel, they would not have that kind of problem which they are facing in their home. And also another thing, these students, when they leave the villages and they come to a town, whatever town it is, even in Bardhaman or small town or whatever, there are a lot of difference between there is a transformation of cultural practices even with the students. So I can feel for myself, because I came from a background which I grew up in a village without electricity up to my 10th level of education. So when I came to this, even the small city Bardhaman, and my exams were over, I used to feel really so sad to go back to the village even. So that also happens, because they are out for maybe the graduation, since graduation and then university, say probably they are out of their house for 3 years already, and that matching with that particular environment, that is also a big issue. So I was just thinking that if universities could be open enough to accommodate, at least to bring in some of the students who are really, they can, at least if they cannot go by their economic means, at least they can think about, okay, who are not within the no buffer zone of this town for 20 kilometers or 50 kilometers. If you are located in a village, how many of them? And it's not absolutely impossible. Probably each university, we are having classes, so each department can give that number, that how many students we can bring in. At least even if not in the class, we can bring them to the hostel. And in normal cases, we allow two students a room in a hostel. Then we can keep at least one in a room. So there, I see that we also, that these formal institutions are also not sensitive enough to take care of actually the care of the students. So that's my feeling. I'm not sure that probably university might think that, okay, why would I take the risk of bringing these students, and then if there is a COVID case, then we will have it will be our responsibility. But then again, one single university cannot decide even. So maybe within at least one single state, the state universities, the highest authority, they can think about all this. They're probably, they can think about some other possibilities where we can take care of the students a little better than nothing.
No, but the logic I didn't understand, when you can open a cinema halls, gyms, and bars and pubs and clubs. What is that you can't open an educational institution? I still don't understand. Maybe Anant have answered that.
that I was also trying to hint out that
why are you pushing that onto me?
Because we are in the university system, that's the problem for Sujata and me.
But I'm not the one who opened this box. No, but great.
No. But that's why I was thinking that there is at least limited possibilities if we try to explore, if we are open enough.
I totally agree. So great. Thank you very much. This has been a lovely conversation and a very, very important one that we have had to have. And I hope that we will be able to continue. Sujata knows that every year I bring her on into Dodin to talk about some aspect of university life, particularly in small universities. And there are continuing threads for the last 4 years. Each year we are building on something that we discovered last time. And the thing that we are discovering this time is that education is really, really such an important life-changing process, and it's a life world unto itself for a lot of people, and our university system is incapable of understanding and dealing with that. And so what we need to do is to figure out how to think about it.
No, so but you have to add that even if any teacher works to change or to take it forward, that it is very difficult now. So
no, but that's a story that I hear also from Gopa.
Yeah.
So that's the new thing that the first thing that Gopa told me was precisely that this is what happens if you try to do anything to improve. But that's the whole point of the system, right? Venu, you're going to say something?
No. I was just thanking Gopa, and so I think it's good to hear. I think it's really, I don't want to say anything because I think having been in Delhi, I think it's important that I listen more. And I'm just getting a sense of how difficult it is. I mean, it's difficult enough in Delhi, even in our institution, but it seems the challenges are even greater. And so I think that's what I'm kind of grateful. I think it just gives me a perspective, which I think in Delhi one can get completely caught up with Delhi itself, not realizing far bigger project. I think that, because I have been listening carefully.
Thank you very much. So thank you, Gopa. Thank you, Sujata.
Thank you very much. So I couldn't come to Dodin before, but this year it was a privilege for me to join from here.
Thank you so much. Next time you'll be here.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.